But Paula Reed has just walked outside of the court. She's joining us right now from Wilmington, Delaware. What's the latest you're hearing, Paula?
Well, the jury has found Hunter Biden, the president's son, guilty on all 3 counts in this case after 3 hours of deliberation. Count 1 is a false statement in the purchase of a firearm. Count 2 is false statement related to information required to be kept by a federal firearms licensed dealer. Count 3 is possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user or addicted to a controlled substance. So he has been found guilty on all 3 counts. Now, the jury here is comprised of 6 men and 6 women. It is a majority black jury. This is day 7 of this historic trial. This is the first time that the child of a sitting president has faced a criminal prosecution. This is the first of 2 criminal trials that he will face after a plea deal that he negotiated fell apart. Now, over the past 7 days, he has enjoyed enormous support from his family, including his stepmother, the First Lady of the United States, who has been here for many days during this trial, other family members, friends of the family, clergy members. He has had dozens of people here showing support for him. And it was notable yesterday that at the beginning of the prosecutor's closing argument, they pointed to the gallery where the First Lady has been sitting and said, those people, they don't matter. What matters here is the evidence. And here, the jury believes that the prosecution proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Hunter Biden was guilty of all 3 of these crimes. Now, the most difficult challenge for prosecutors, Wolf, was proving that Hunter Biden knowingly lied throughout the course of this process, that he was aware of the fact that he was either using or addicted to drugs. And they pointed yesterday to the fact that shortly before he purchased this gun that he had been recently in rehab. So prosecutors said, look, if he hadn't just been to rehab, maybe we could buy the idea that he wasn't aware of the fact that he had a problem with substance abuse. But again, after 3 hours of deliberation, a jury here in Wilmington, Delaware, finding the president's son guilty on all 3 counts.
And Paula potentially faces what, a maximum of about 25 years in jail. Is that right?
Yeah, look, sentencing is much more of an art than it is a science. That is the far upper range of the sentencing guidelines. But he is, of course, a first-time offender, so we don't expect that he would get a sentence anywhere near that. But that is the upper end of the sentencing guidelines for these specific offenses. And also, this is the second trial, the first of 2 trials that he will face. He will face a second trial in September later this year on tax-related charges. Now, we have a new flurry of activity coming out of the court. I'm going to have our reporter just come over and tell us what else they're learning, because obviously the most important thing was the verdict, but we're also getting other information, including color about his reaction. There was great hope within Hunter Biden's legal camp that perhaps they would get a hung jury here in Wilmington, that people would believe that this was an unfair prosecution, that nobody else who had a different name would face this case. It is, objectively speaking, a very unique case, but here the jury believed that the prosecutors proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Major development. Hunter Biden guilty of all 3 counts in this trial that's been going on, and potentially right now, Paula, give us a sense, Paula. Will he be incarcerated awaiting sentencing, or will he be able to go home?
No, we don't expect that he will be detained pending sentencing. It's unclear how long it'll take for him to get a sentencing date that will likely be set today. And just like former President Trump, we've seen up in New York, there's a whole process ahead of sentencing. But as I said, he has another federal trial in September, so it's unclear exactly when his sentencing date will be. But we fully expect that he will likely be out and about, still a free man, even though he is facing this conviction, until his sentencing. And then I would expect that there will be a series of appeals. But there are questions about just how many resources he has remaining to fund his legal defense. He is right now not working. His longtime friend and attorney, Kevin Morris, has been paying most of his legal bills. But Wolf, it's not just these criminal trials that he's facing. He and his lawyers are pursuing this very aggressive, litigious campaign against his detractors. They have a lot of civil lawsuits that are costing them money, but I fully expect he will appeal this verdict and ultimately the sentence. And he may make a brief statement after court. We'll see how he's feeling after this conviction.
I'm sure he's not feeling very good about being convicted on all 3 counts. Guilty, all 3 counts. All right, Paula, stand by. We'll get back to you. I know you're getting more information from inside the courtroom as well. We'll get back to you on that. Jamie Gangel, what do you think?
Look, this is obviously a painful and difficult moment for the whole Biden family. No parent wants to see something like this happen. I think, considering how quickly the verdict came down, we saw the prosecution's case. It's not that surprising. I do think it's notable that Hunter Biden's trial and this conviction is an example of no one being above the rule of law, including the president's son, and stands in stark contrast to how former President Trump behaved up in New York, coming out every day, calling the judge corrupt, saying it was rigged, witch hunt. And I think it's also notable that President Biden has said that he will not pardon his son.
Yeah, and he would honor the verdict, whatever that
Correct.
would be. Evan Osnos is still with us, the Biden biographer. Evan, give us your reaction to this guilty verdict for Hunter Biden.
You know, I'm thinking back, Wolf, to the fact that Joe Biden for many, many years has talked about addiction in his family. I mean, many years ago, when he was asked why it is that he doesn't drink alcohol, he said, there are too many alcoholics in my family, which is in many ways kind of running beneath the surface of this story. I mean, the fact is, this is now a day in which Joe Biden's surviving son, to use the term that he uses, is going to prison, or I should say, let me fix that, has now been convicted and is now facing serious consequences for the combination of his addiction and this period in his life, which was described in such brutal detail over the course of the last. I think it's also important to mention, as Jamie mentioned, that the president has been clear that he wasn't going to intervene in this case. He has been declining to talk about it. He has said he wouldn't pardon his son. I think that strikes a lot of people as notable. It's something that he has held fast to in this process. And you can be sure this is reverberating right now through the Biden family in a way that, after all, a family that has seen its fair share of suffering over the years and is now preparing for another very difficult phase.
Evan, stand by. Paula Reed's getting more information from inside the courtroom right now. Paula, update our viewers on the latest.
Well, as I said earlier, Hunter has enjoyed significant support from his family, friends, members of the clergy, and the First Lady of the United States has been here. His stepmom has been here most days of this trial, but the verdict came very quickly between the time we were alerted that it was ready and the time it was read. And the First Lady she didn't get here in time to hear the verdict read. So that is significant that she was not here during the verdict, but she was here for many other pivotal moments of this trial. Now, I will note the president has said that he would not pardon his son, that he will respect the verdict. I will note, look, legal nerd here, right, recovering lawyer, there's also the option to potentially commute any sentence. While he may not pardon his son, he would have the option to commute whatever sentence his son receives here for this trial. So if at the end of his term his son is still serving that sentence, he could potentially commute his sentence. So something important to remember, even though his father has said at this point he would not offer him a pardon, but he has received unwavering support from his stepmother throughout this trial. Even while she has been traveling abroad to Europe, she has still come back and been here front and center, sitting in the front row, offering support not only to her stepson, but to other members of the family. For example, their granddaughter had to testify, Naomi Biden, and when she and her husband walked in the courtroom that day for her to testify, the First Lady immediately looked at Naomi's husband, motioned for him to come sit right next to her. So the First Lady has been here throughout this trial, offering support again, not just to the defendant, her stepson, but also to other members of the family that have been part of this.